Is it is a good idea to like um, read through like the queries that I'm expecting, or that like any project managers or like product manager is expecting before you do the modeling. Like you want to consider like what kinds of questions you want to answer, and that informs how you can write the like structure the tables. Okay, so we'll perform data modeling for a tour company. Uh, I say add the foreign keys. You from my advice that really what I recommend doing is describe the relationships first, and then that will translate to foreign keys. But we'll walk through that. So we have these ideas of tours, right? Like a multi-city tour. And then here's the cities. And then I guess, different categories, like a tour falls into different categories. And then stops on the tour, right? So I guess I'm giving you this hint of like this tour category idea. Here's the tours in the cities. Okay, so those are those things. And then we're saying, okay, find the names of all the tours that are relaxing. All right, so this should tell you already, like, a category has many tours, right? Because we're saying all the tours that are relaxing. All the city names on the food tour of Mexico in the order that they are stops on the tour. So it's like a tour has many cities, right? And probably a city has many tours too, Find all the categories of the History of Mexico tour. So this is a tour, and like this is telling you a tour has many categories. So we know that a tour has many categories, and we know from here that a single category, like relaxing, has many tours, right? So this is already kind of telling you the relationship. And then find the names of all the cities in a tour that is relaxing. So this one's just like asks you to combine all the tables. But so far we know that like a tour, the names of all the tours that are relaxing, so a category has many tours, and we know a tour has many categories because we know from here how like a given tour has many categories, and then we know that a tour has many cities as well. And probably like, it seems like a city probably has many tours. Just because like, you can imagine like Mexico City is involved in multiple different tours, right? Like, just like a cruise, multiple cruises can stop at the same city. All right, so you can see I'm using draw.io, and I have this idea of, okay, we have these categories, we have tours, we have cities, and really like the three main entities so far seems to be tours, categories, and cities. And what we said is that a category has many tours and a tour has many categories. All right, so we'll start there. I don't know where it just went. Did it go up here somewhere? That's weird. All right, we'll create it again. So we said a tour has many categories and a category has many tours. So what does that tell you? If a tour has many categories, that means we cannot put like a category ID here, right? Because if you do that, then we're saying, okay, here's this tour, like, History of Mexico, and we're just restraining this History of Mexico tour just to be like, history. But if we want to add another category of like, that is urban or whatever, well, we're running into this issue of, well, how, I want to have as many categories as I want associated with History of Mexico, and here I'm restricting it. Because a tour has many categories, we can't put the foreign key here. And because a category, if we put a tour ID here, right, well, then we have this, urban tours or whatever, and we're restricting it to just one tour. But, we have one tour that's going through the East Coast cities, another tour that's going through the West Coast cities. So we have two different tours, both that have the same category, But if we have this kind of like, well, urban is associated with just a single type of tour, just has like this tour ID of 1, well, that's not really going to work, because we're going to have to now either write urban twice, which is a violation because we don't want to produce this more than once, and do that. Or even worse is we're going to have to say, okay, well, here's this urban thing, and this is associated with the city ID, and then we have a second city ID, number 2, right? And now, because we have two, or sorry, this should be tour ID. So either way, we're running into an issue of, like, once we have the has many, this is the whole point. If you have a has many relationship, like a category has many tours and a tour has many categories, you cannot put a foreign key on there, right? Because that's going to limit it just to 1. So what does that tell us? If we can't put the foreign key here and we can't put the foreign key there, we must have a join table. All right, so this would be like tour categories. And now you'd have something like a, category ID and a tour ID. All right. So this thing represents the link. That's the point. Let's do it this way. I did not want that to happen. Will that go to here? There we go. Okay. So the idea is, a category has many tours, right? Like we have the history tours, right? So this is one category of history, but there's many tours associated with it. And the link is through this join table, where the join table just has our foreign keys. All right. You can see that. I did that. Maybe I'll paste this in here. So you can see that if we do, select all from tour categories. Okay, you can see that this is the link. This is the table that links a tour to a category. All right, this is what's going to join them together. So this is, one kind of key relationship. And then it's the same thing with cities and tours. So a city can be associated with many tours, right? Like History of Mexico or Food Tours of Mexico, right? They both can be associated with Mexico City. And a tour has many cities on it. So again, we cannot put a city ID here, and because this would just limit, this History of Mexico tour just to one city, and we cannot put a tour ID here because now Mexico City can only have one tour associated with it. So we need a third table, and that would be like the tour stops, okay? And this will have like a city ID, a tour ID, and a stop ID, right? And the this would be like the stop number, where the stop number is like, this is the first city on the tour that we're visiting, and, is Mexico City, and the second city on the tour is Oaxaca or whatever. So again, you can start to see that if you here select all from tour stops. So these are, I need a semicolon here. So here's our tour stops. Okay, and you can see, okay, well, this is like the first tour, right? Like, I'm guessing this is, History of Mexico or something. And we first go to this city, and then we go to this city, and then we go to this city. This is all part of the same tour, right? Because you see one, for these first three, and this has 3 different stops, right? And then the second tour goes to these 2 cities. So this is how we associate, our categories, these 2 different entities. So we can't stick the tour ID on the cities table because it would limit it just to one tour associated with the city, and we cannot stick the city ID on the tour because I would just say this tour only has one city. All right, that's the key point. The rest, I think, is This is how I diagram it, you know? So it's like a tour has many categories through this join, and a tour has many cities through this join table. And then a city has many tours, right, through here. And then, and a tour has many cities. Is this similar to what you all produced? Yeah? Okay, very good. I'm happy. Believe it or not, I give this these types of questions all the time to on interviews, and people fail them all the time. So it's great that you guys are understanding this. All right, so I am. I'll deploy. I would still say I'll deploy this. All you have to do is just copy and paste this code into SQL, into the Khan Academy thing, and then I have the answers here. If you feel like leaving this to the end, that's fine. I'll let you decide. Then for the has many movies, I looked at the problems again, and I wrote down the only two that require subqueries. I copied and pasted into Slack. So these require subqueries. How many movies has each of the actors from Toy Story been in? And then what are the names of other movies the director of Toy Story directed? These two require subqueries. So we can go through subqueries now. I mean, we'll go through them more formally later. But if you want to see this, let's maybe see if I can do this. What are the names? Okay, how many movies has each? This is kind of challenging. What are the names of the other movies the director of Toy Story has directed? Let's do this one first. What are the names of the other movies? Okay, the director of Toy Story has directed. So first of all, I should be able to do import pandas as pd.read SQL, pass through the connection object, and then just do select all from directors limit to. I just want to see, can I query? Oh, it feels like I didn't. Oh, there we go. So I just want to query the directors table. Okay. What are the names of, so we're going to start by breaking this into a couple questions. So it says, what are the names of other movies the director of Toy Story has directed? But that seems to imply this initial question of who was the director of Toy Story, essentially? That's how I would answer this. And then to do that, so this means I need to know two different things, right? I need to have directors table and the movies table. So this implies I need to load up the directors table, the movies table, and you can start to think about the relationship between the two of them. I think a director certainly has many movies, right? Spielberg produced, many movies. So we know a director has many movies, and probably we also have that a movie has many directors. And I can kind of probably confirm that if I can just do select all from movie, is it movie directors? Let's see. Yeah, so this is the join, right, between a movie and a director. So this one movie has two different directors, okay? And now let's do this. What are the names of other movies the director of Toy Story? So the first question again is, who is the director of Toy Story? So select all from movie directors. Let's join movies on movies.id equals movie directors.movieid, right? We're loading up these two tables. The primary key of this should equal the foreign key of that. So movie directors.movieid. And let's just move to triple quotes now. That way we can do this in multiple lines. Do I not have a limit? Oops. That's okay. So what do we have? We have this. This is the join table. This is my movies directors table. And then here we have the title, right? So we have to do where the movies.title, so I'm using the table prefix here, equals Toy Story. And I'm guessing it is capitalized. We'll find out. All right, cool. So who's the director? Well, whoever is associated with this 141. So how are we going to get that? We can join this. We really don't even have to be honest, but we will just for now. Join directors on, basically now we need to connect directors with the tables that are already loaded. So how do we do that? Well, it's going to be from this movie directors table, right? It's this thing. This is my link to the directors table. So it's movie directors dot director ID. So every time you load up a table, like I'm thinking like, what's my link to the tables that I'm already loaded into memory? So, all right, I'm looking to join my directors table. How does that link to what's already here? With a foreign key. All right, equals directors.id. And now we can just do select. If you want to select, you can select like directors.name, probably. There you go. So this is the guy. And let's also do directors.id. So this is the person who produced Toy Story. And now the question is, what are the other movies he's produced? So let's just put this in a separate, let's answer this question separately, and then we'll combine this into one. So we can do this. So the next question is, what are the names of the other movies John Lasseter has directed? So how are we going to do that? Again, the key, I think, is this movie directors table. So we select all from movie directors where movie directors dot director ID equals 141. Like we can just start there. And I'm missing a connection. So it says missing required positional argument connection. That's because I didn't pass one in here. All right, so this is everything that he's directed. And now what do we want to do? Well, we want the names of the movies. So let's join. So we need to get to the movies table. So, and remember, we always are connecting through the foreign key. So we're going to join movies on movies.id equals movie directors dot movie ID. And this should give me, tell me, I guess, like, yeah, we'll just see. We should be able to get all the movie names and things like that from here. So this is everything he's produced. And this seems to pass the smell test. It's a bunch of Pixar movies, it seems like. All right. So here's the next thing. So how do we so this is everything he's made, right? We can make this little movies.title and have this look like, so now this is starting to look like our answer. And now how do we combine the two? One, if we just did this is fine. But here's what you can do. Basically, in this equal sign, you see how we have a 141? What we want to do is we want to produce the code, right? Produce the query that's going to generate that 141. So how do we do that? Let me comment this out for now. So we need to get to this 141. And the way to do this is, well, we're basically there. We're selecting the director's ID and the name where the movie title is Toy Story. So this is the director of Toy Story. Instead of the director ID and the name, let's just get the director ID. All right? So now we're producing this 141. So now instead of saying where the director ID equals 141, we can just put parentheses here and then paste this query into here. It does not look great, but that's probably just because I'm missing. Once I uncomment this, we'll be fine. I'm gonna let me put this in a. I'm gonna put this in a text editor, just to make this more clear. This is the query. So we want the title of the movie, and everything's the same, except this is returning the director ID. So this whole statement right here is equivalent essentially to 141. All right? So give me the director's ID from the movies, essentially, where the title is Toy Story. And this query is going to return to me 141, right? A director ID of 141. And then here I'm saying, well, now give me all the movie titles joining the movie directors where that director ID equals that 141. I'll send you all this to look at, but that's the logic. For now, let's see if it works, right? So I basically did this in 2 queries, and then I just copied and pasted it. And it still works, right? So this is using a subquery right here. All we did was we took an original query, right, that returned to us that 141, and we pasted it. So instead of equals 141, we said equals the result of this. So originally this was 141, right? And we got that from here by getting the director ID.
Is there a way to store that ID like as a variable before then?
There might be. I think there actually is in like Postgres, probably not in SQLite, but
Cool.
yeah. But this is generally how you'll see it. It is more either as a subquery or this other technique we'll learn called like a CTE. But so you'll generally see this. It's what's weird is the order is reversed. You know what I like in terms of reading this thing, right? Like it's like where the director ID equals what? Well, it equals the director's ID who made Toy Story. So it's like in terms of how we did it, we actually did this part first. First, tell me the director who made Toy Story, then find for me all the movies, right, where, you know, of that director. So this is how you can use a subquery to answer this in one single query. Like I said, if you broke it up into 2 steps, if you're like first find it out, pull out, okay, this is 141, and then just, you know, hard code 141 into here, that's fine. Right, I'll send you all these 3 to do that, right? To kind of recreate this if you want. I think the main thing is like taking this question, what are the names of the other movies the director of Toy Story directed? And then realizing, all right, wait a second, this is really 2 questions. Who is the director of Toy Story? And then what are the names of the other movies he directed? You know, because it says other movies, you could say, you could say like where the title for, you know, is not Toy Story. Where title, movies.title is not Toy Story. I wonder if that will work, right, to accept this one. Because we want the other movies. I broke it. Oh, how did I break it? I'm missing it.
The other question you said you needed to use this method on was the question beforehand, right?
Yeah, it is. I put it in Slack. How many movies has each of the actors from Toy Story been in? Right, it's this one. How many movies? We can do this one too, as a group. I'll leave. You know what? We'll do it afterwards. I'll leave it as a challenge for you all. This is challenging. All right. And apparently I can't do that. Oh, you know why? Because I have 2 where statements. And movies.title is not Toy Story. This works. So now we've accepted Toy Story. All right, so I'll send you these, you know, to look at. And then I would say you don't have to learn, like I said, I'm covering subqueries right now just because the lab happens to ask questions that rely on it. But we will more extensively cover subqueries at a later time. We have like a few lessons on it. like I like this Postgres app. If you have a Mac, you know, you can install this. Look at the downloads, download it, and then just double click, install it. You know, it tells you exactly what to do. Download it, move it to the applications folder. You'll see this initialize, and then copy and paste this into the command line. All right. What you want to look for is that when you like are trying to use Postgres, is that you see this elephant up top. All right. If you don't, you can press Command Space lots of times, and then just type Postgres and press Return, and that will boot it up. Okay. So then you should be able to access Postgres from the command line. And you know, one thing just to pay attention to is like, are you in Bash, right, where you can type like ls, or are you in Postgres? So the same thing that like, you know, when we type Python, right, now we can only type Python commands and then exit out of here. For Postgres, you type PSQL, all right? And now we're in Postgres. Notice what it's doing. You can see with this con info. So I'm doing / con info. And it says I'm connected to the database Jeffrey Katz as user Jeffrey Katz via socket and temp at port 5432. So every program, like every program that you run, is allocated a port. So by default, this thing right here is the database name, Jeffrey Katz. All right, and you can, you know, see all your databases by doing /l. So you can see I have a bunch of them. So /l, /l is to see all of your databases. When you see this colon thing here, you can just press Q to kind of get back into the Postgres shell, so you can start typing again. So I'll just show you that again. I do /l. You can see it's just like showing you the output. I can see more output by pressing space. And then if I want to kind of get out of this and like type again, I just press the letter Q. All right. So /l is to list all of your databases. As we know, right, you have a database, like one database per application, more or less. And then you have tables inside of the database. If you want to create a new database, you can just do create database. This is the same thing, basically. This is essentially just SQL. So it's like create database. We can call it like sample DB. Semicolon, right, to end the SQL statement. I guess says I already did that. And now I can view it, /l. Here's my sample DB. And now if I want to connect to this database, right, we have multiple different databases in Postgres. And so like say I want to connect to a database, right, because inside this database will be various tables, etc. I'll do /c. right, and then sample DB. Okay, so you saw a couple different commands so far. /l to list all the databases, /c to connect to a database, and you can see it says, all right, I'm now connected to sample database as user Jeff Katz. All right. From here, the next thing I really like is just /dt, right? So we list all the databases, we connect to a database. Now, what are the tables inside of the databases? You see this one just has, this one I guess I have as an example, movies PyTest. So I do /dt. DT stands for, I'm going to make this bigger. DT stands for display tables. Okay? And then if you want to see details about that, /d, then the name of the table. So you can see this table, you can see the column, you know, has movie ID as one column, title, right, and genres. Okay. What else should I talk about? Like more things. This / can just show you various commands, you know, that you can do. So this is like a help essentially. All right. So if you can type in any of these things, and it will, you know, as a way just to see. And I'm pressing space. So if you want to explore different things that you can do in Postgres, this / and then if you have, let's see, so for instance, this, you can see it shows you, okay, this /d, shows for like tables. Is there anything else really to show? That's mainly it. The main thing I wanted to really show you is like list all the databases, right? Then there's, once you connect to a database, so do /c, connect to a database. Let's list all the databases. So for instance, if I want to connect to this e-commerce, then I'll do /c e-commerce, press return. Now I'm in the e-commerce database. If I want to see all the tables here, /dt. So here I'm seeing the various tables. And now if I want to see the details about a table, /d, then the name of the table. All right. So now you can see here's all the columns in the transactions table. That's pretty easy. I guess we can, questions before I move on. I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about this.
Can you show us how to get the config file? Because I can't seem to get into it.
Okay, let me see. All right, so let's open this up. So this is in this reading, I'm guessing. So this is creating tables, Postgres terminal. Hold on. It's this one. Okay, navigating Postgres. All right. So for the config, okay, show config file. That's interesting. Let's type that. Show config file semicolon. So this is where the config file lives on my computer. When you're navigating to it, there's probably just going to be an issue with the space right here. All right, so here's what I would do. We can copy this. So first of all, I want to get out of the Postgres shell and then navigate. This is showing me the path on my computer to this file. And now I can basically cd to /users/library. You can go here and you just press tab, application. You see it's having an issue. The way you do this is with the / space. Now we can go to support. And now Postgres. So I'm just using tab completion, var 14. And now we're basically there. And this is the PostgreSQL.conf. And these are just files that store various configuration about Postgres. So we can open this up just like we would with any other text editor. And then we can go, that's fine. I forget, is it this one? So this is like where you can set various configuration, and then what was it? It was, let's just do it again. PSQL show config file. PostgreSQL.conf. So let's just look. PostgreSQL.conf. All right. So this is literally where you can set various configuration, right? You can see by default the port is running here, etc. Okay.
Can't seem to get into the library. I see that in the config name, like when I did the config thing, but for some reason, if I go to Finder, I can't see a library, so I'm not sure it's permission thing or something.
I'm starting at this, stopping at this var 14. I don't know if that's helpful. And then from there, you can.
No, my computer won't let me go. Like if I go into my username, there's nothing. There's no folder called library.
Yeah, I don't.
Even though when I typed the name of the config file, it showed me the whole string like you have.
Got
with
it.
library.
Yeah, seems like a bash issue. Yeah, if you can't get that part, that's okay. This is not super critical. But I just wanted to show you where you can. Like if you ever need to modify Postgres, you can get to that path by logging into Postgres and then doing that show config file. Shows you kind of where all the configuration is going to live for you. All right. Okay. Other things I wanted to show you with Postgres. Let's go back to. Sorry, I'm just going to go to Home and go to Documents. Okay, cool. It's William put another way to find it in the chat there. So other things I want to show you with Postgres. So there's different ways to like execute commands, SQL commands with Postgres. So one is, we can just log in, type PSQL, right? And then we can /L. I like to look at all my databases. You can connect to a database. Like let's say we connect to this Pagilla. Let's do Foursquare. So I'm connected to the Foursquare by doing this /C. What am I going to type next? Display the tables, /DT. And then now we see this table, let's call it cities. And then what would I do next? Try to select all from cities. And here's all the cities. Okay, and you guys don't have this database, but in theory, this is what you can do. Okay, so one way we can execute our queries is, and you can see the similarities with SQLite, right? Directly through by connecting to Postgres. Another way we can do this is through a file. So let's quit out of this. So I'm in Documents. You can be in any. Let's just make a new directory called like sample Postgres, and then I'll cd into that. And then let's touch. I'm going to create like SQL query .sql and do code. So another way that we can issue commands, select all from cities, right, is to write the file. So we'll put any SQL command in a SQL file, and then we can do this. We can do PSQL. Now if you just do and have this -f, the -f is for file, right? And then I'm going to put the name of the file, so that's SQL query. Now if you just do this, PSQL -f SQL query, it will run this query, select all from cities, but it's going to do that against the default database, which I think is Jeffrey Katz in this case. And because of that, it says, hey, relation. When you see the word relation, it means table. So it's saying, hey, this table doesn't exist. Why does it not exist? Because it's doing it on this database, right? What you want to do is execute the command on the Foursquare practice database, right? So how do you do that? So it'll be PSQL-F, and then, so this is the flag, kind of like the option, and then, so here the option is what file, SQL query.sql, run this, against what database, -D, and the -D is going to be Foursquare database. I wonder if, and you see that works. This is outputting to the shell, to bash, all of the, like the select all from cities. So let's see that again. PSQL, the order here doesn't matter. You can reverse, you can have the -D Foursquare practice come first. I'll just show you that. In fact, that's normally how I would do it. Foursquare practice. So this is the database flag, I'm specifying the database, and then -F SQL query.sql. All right, so this is a file, and I run it. The other thing you can do, you could specify the user, so -U, right? And then you could say like what user are you going to do this as? For me it would be like Jeffrey Katz. By default, right, there already is a default set for you, so you probably don't need to do this, but you could, you can do that through the command line. So the point is like without logging into Postgres, you can issue Postgres commands, right? This is in Bash, right? And we're issuing commands that way. So this still worked, right? Because I'm saying now, against this database, run this file as this user, -U Jeff Katz. The most common time that you'll do this, like basically is when you're creating tables, right? So you'll do something like create table, then the name of the table will be like, sample table. And then it will be, the standard, I have a reading on it, but the standard, like data types. So here would be like ID in Postgres, instead of integer auto increment, it's serial is the data type. And let's say like name is varchar 250. So this is just like varying character 250, allowing up to 250 characters. So let's see if this works. So I'm creating a table, the sample table name. We're gonna create a primary key of called ID. It's of type serial, and then name varchar. And where do we want to create this? So we'll do this on the Foursquare practice. Let's just take a look again, connect to Foursquare practice, and then /DT to see all the tables. You see we don't have sample table there, but now if I run this, I'm gonna run this file, SQL query.sql, against this database, Foursquare practice, as the user Jeff Katz. And see that it outputted create table, which tells me it probably worked. Okay, let's take a look. So I'm going to connect PSQL. We can, instead of, so far what we've been doing is we've been first connecting to Postgres and then doing /c to connect to Foursquare practice. We can do both at the same time. We can directly connect to Foursquare practice immediately by doing PSQL-D Foursquare practice. And you'll see this will take me right in to the Foursquare practice database, right? If I didn't do that, so this is what I just did. If I didn't do that, right, it's fine. I just have to now separately connect. Right now I'm connected to this database, Jeffrey Katz, and want to connect to the Foursquare practice database. Now I'm there. Now what I want to do next, I want to see what are all the tables, so /DT, and there's that table, okay? And now if I want to drop it, it's just a normal SQL command, which happens to be drop table, sample table, semicolon. See, that drops the table, display the tables, and it's gone. Okay, so the point is, we saw two different ways to interact with Postgres. One is to do PSQL, and we see these different kind of commands of /c to connect to a database, sample DB, /DT to display all the tables, /D followed by the name of the table to display like the columns, right? Display information about that table. Then the other way that we saw to connect to a database, /Q to quit, is to run PSQL and specify the flags here, like -D, the name of the database. So this should be like whatever it was, Foursquare practice. And then -F, this is the key one. And then the name of the file. All right. Let's see if this worked. You see that? It issued the command. And it worked. Okay. Questions about this? There's not a ton to this, but it's just becoming familiar with it. Yeah. All right. Let me deploy some lessons on this. We just have to. You'll be using Postgres is by far like the most popular database, so you'll be using this. It's good that we're taking some time just to feel comfortable with it. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, did I already deploy? Are we in the right? Yeah, navigating Postgres Lab. Maybe I already deployed that. And then I'll deploy these three. Postgres files. Yeah, I'll deploy these three. We can talk about SQL injection and indexes tomorrow, but I'll deploy the readings if you want to get a head start on it. And then also tomorrow, I scraped down a bunch of jobs from Indeed. So we can work, and that's on actually AWS, on one of my AWS Postgres instances, So you can, tomorrow, you can connect to my AWS. So AWS allows you to have Postgres on the cloud. And so I have a bunch of data on Korea,